Gilbert.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Seth, and thanks Adorama for having me here today. I'm not sure how I feel about being called an OG, but I'll go with it. I'll go with it.
It's a status you earn. Come on.
I know. Actually, I've been producing events for over 50 years. So but I started when I was 15. So, but today, the title that I have on my slide is a little bit different than the title on the Eventbrite. I think I mistitled it, and it didn't sound as interesting. It's really about how to produce an exhibition of your photography, whether you do it on your own or you do it with a group and call that group a co-op, committee, whatever. And it's something that is doable for anyone who, why have your work just sitting in a drawer or in boxes? Get out there, show your work, get seen, get some gigs, that's what it's all about. As the song says, what good is sitting alone in your room? Come out and produce an event. In this talk, we'll cover why it's a good idea to do to produce an exhibition of your work. What might it be? What will it be? Who will it be? Meaning who might be joining you in it? The groundwork that you're going to need to do to get ready to produce it. Finding a space to do it in, blasting off, and it actually happening, and then the follow-up. But before we get to that, it's like you're probably wondering, those who don't know me, who the heck am I? And so let me explain. My name is Deborah Gilbert, and as Seth mentioned, I have been kicking around the photo industry for a long time. Half of my career, over 40 years of career, half of it has been as a working photographer, making my entire living from my photography, but I've also been a photo editor and an experiential marketing director and a regional director of a photography trade organization. So I've worn a lot of different hats. But I started doing events when I was 15 years old. My first large-scale event was a roller skate-a-thon, actually, that I produced in 10th grade because the brother of a schoolmate had passed away from leukemia, and so to honor him, I produced a roller skate-a-thon to raise money for the Leukemia Society. And it did really well, and we had hundreds of kids show up, and they all kept skating around in circles, getting pledges. And after that, other kids in town who every year did events for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, the Jerry Lewis Telethon, wanted to get me to do a roller skate-a-thon for them, and I did, and I got pulled into that world of MDA and loved that organization. And what they did at the time was they took what they called student leaders, and which is really just high school and college kids who expressed an interest in doing fundraisers, and gave us these intensive weekend workshops where they taught us everything we needed to know about event producing, from the logistics, the cleanup, the handling the press, the ideation, everything we needed to know to do events. And they did that for a bunch of years, which was really smart for an organization to do. And all of us then spread out and did events for them. But then and that was, and I did that for over 20 years, producing events for them. Also, in that time, I worked with Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus, so I learned publicity at the knee of the master, is what I always say. And so that's my event story. But in that, I've also produced a lot of photography events. I've produced over 1,200 events, so that's a lot. And I'm going to be giving you a lot of information today, and I'm going to try not to talk too fast. Usually I just talk yip, 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 but I'm trying to learn to slow down and speak at a normal rate of speed, which in my head sounds like I'm talking really slowly. But so I'm trying to speak slowly. So if I start speeding up, somebody raise your hand and say, you're speeding up, slow down. So let's get into it. The why. So why would you want to do an exhibition? What can an exhibition do for you? It can get your work just out there so you can be seen, whether you're seen by the public because you want to, the general public who might want to buy your art, whether you want to just sell framed pieces off the wall, or whether you're a commercial photographer and you want to have potentially art buyers, editors, whoever might give you a gig, see your work. And so you can do that. Exhibitions are not just for fine art photographers. If you're a wedding photographer, family portraits, headshots, all kinds of commercial work, you can do a show too. And you just tailor the way you do it to bring in the audience that you want to see your work. So it's doable. So for example, if you were just a fine art photographer, you'd have an exhibition and you'd have your work, and you're trying to market your work to collectors, people who would just want to buy your work to hang on the wall. If you're say a wedding photographer, you would have an exhibition of your wedding work, but you could conceivably bring in other people to go in on it with you. So for example, maybe you know someone who does wedding catering. So have them come in with it so they can cater the opening reception, or any vendor who works in weddings can go in on it and create an event that showcases your photography. And then you're bringing in people who possibly would be getting married, and which is a lot of people who are getting married or married adjacent, who know people getting married too. There's all kinds of possibilities. I love this quote from Ansel Adams. The most important component of a camera is the 12 inches behind it. It's basically the most important component of anything you're doing is the 12 inches behind, not just the camera, but behind an event that you're doing. So the what, or just say the what's. All these headlines really should probably be plural, but just know going in that it's a process. And I'm going to talk to you about all these different things that you have to decide and think about when you're thinking about putting together an exhibition. And it sounds like a lot. And I don't want you to get discouraged because, it sounds like a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but you can do it. You just have to take your time and take your fences one at a time, and you can do it. So it's a process with a lot of decisions you're going to have to be made, like how you're going to present your work. Are you going to put things up framed or unframed? How long will the show be? Will putting something up for a one-day show or a week-long show or a month-long show? Are you going to do it on your own, or are you going to put a group together? There are pluses and minuses to doing it both ways. And you really should be honest with yourself in the planning, honest with yourself about how much time and money you have to put into it. So go figure out, do your groundwork, your homework, and figure out if you have the time to do it, if you have the budget to do it. And like I said before, if you're not a fine art photographer, no problem. This is for any photographer, and also if you're a painter, the same rules apply. There used to be a gallerist here in the city, a very well-known gallerist, Marcus Pfeiffer, and he said, a gallery is just an ego with walls. Maybe you've tried to get into a commercial gallery and was rejected, or your work has been rejected different places. You really shouldn't take that to heart, because like Marcus Pfeiffer said, or Kusi as her nickname, a gallery is an ego with walls. There are gatekeepers, but it doesn't mean that they know more than you. It just means that they're in a position to make decisions, and you can go around them. And this is one way of going around them. So what do I mean by groundwork? First of all, do you already have a collection of work that you feel is ready to show? Even if you do, in the time period it takes you to put together a show, you're going to keep working. As you're doing all this other stuff, you're going to keep working on your body of work. Because you may switch things out. As you move along your photography journey, what you thought was good this week, you're not going to think is good a year from now. You're going to think, why was I doing that, a year ago? So keep working on your work, but do you already have a collection to get going? Or at least a collection that's a portfolio that at any point when you're talking to different people about your work and about the possibility of doing a show, if they say, let me see your work. You have something to show them. You don't want to say, well, I really don't have anything right now, but I will in the future. You have to be ready, when you start this process and you're talking to people and you're asking them about whether it's about renting their space or coming in on it with you or any of these other things. You want to have something in case they say, let me see what do you do? So make sure you have something, even if you change your mind later and you change the pieces later, you have something that you feel is good to show them. And not stuff that you feel you have to apologize for. I know when we do crits, I don't know if this happens when you do crits here, is that there's some people will show their work and then they immediately start apologizing for their work. Well, this could have been better and that could have been better and blah, blah, blah. Don't apologize for your work when you show it to anyone. If you feel like you have to apologize for your work, don't show that work. Show something you feel you don't have to apologize for. You should be growing your social media following as you're getting ready, getting your collection of photography ready, growing your social media following. So once you have a date and you can publicize it. There's good and bad things about social media. The good thing about it is it makes it easier to advertise for things without spending any money. The people who work in newspapers and magazines may not like it, but it replaced a lot of stuff that you couldn't. A lot of things people couldn't afford to do, they can do now because social media helps them get the word out to people. So be growing your social media following, showing work that represents you and represents what you want to show. Don't use any tricks. Some people will tell you about different schemes for growing their followers, or they'll buy followers. Don't ever do that. I once cleaned up a social media account for an organization that I helped out with, a nonprofit and a children's charity, and they couldn't afford to hire someone to handle their Twitter account, and this was when Twitter was still Twitter, and so it was worth saving. But they had an account with like 18,000 followers, and they were following 18,000 people. They had someone who had offered to do it for free, who didn't know what they were doing and just followed. They used the theory that you just follow people and they follow you back. That it's just about getting numbers. So it looks like you have 18,000 followers, but it didn't matter that they were just random people. Like, so there are some people who on social media will put like an FBR, after their name, or they'll put it in their bio, say follow back. Anything that has any account that says follow back, or FBR, which also means follow back, and you follow that person, they will follow you back. And that's what this person just went through the internet, just following, and then those people followed back. But to see the scroll, the scroll go through, it was psychotic. They're random people that you wouldn't want following you, because eventually someone's going to do research on you and look you up, and you don't want them to look through your followers and see all these weird accounts following you. You want them to look through your followers and see that they're worthwhile people who are following you. So I had to go through. First, I just went through and deleted all the things that said the followers that they were following that said follow back, then all the FBRs, and then went through the remaining accounts. Some of them were crazy, some were conspiracy theorists, some were bigoted, some were all kinds of things, and got it down to like 500 people that they were following, which was, and then some people will stop following you, but most did, but it didn't matter. But at least it was, you want to be following people that you're proud to be following, and you want people following you. There may be some people that start to follow you that you want to block. If bots start to follow you, I always block bots. Everyone does what they think they need to do, but that's a better way. The best way to grow your social media following is just to provide good content that people want to see in a consistent manner, and your following will grow. And we'll get into more social media later. Also, build your invitation list. People you're going to want to invite to see your show, are going to want to invite to your opening reception. So you want them to be not just your friends and family, but start building a list of people who are collectors, who are or art buyers, interior designers, the people that you want to come to see your work who may potentially buy it or hire you. And start building that list. Don't buy lists. There is no substitute for building your list person by person, and every person that you add to your list is a quality person, a qualified buyer who you're not wasting your time with. And also build your list of media outlets, meaning people outlets where you're going to want to send press releases to publicize your show. And start thinking about whether you're going to want to do this on your own or bring people in to create a committee or a co-op to do this with you. You're going to have to be doing all of this simultaneously. You don't want to get a space and then do this. You want to have a lot of this done before you get a space, because you might not have enough lead time, and some of this, is time consuming. And so you want to have your ducks in a row before you go out and sign on the dotted line and rent a space, or put your work someplace else. Now the where is you have to also think about: do you want your show to look like a conventional gallery show, a pop-up in a space that looks like a conventional gallery, or do you want to put your work someplace else? Like a restaurant or a furniture store, someplace where they're bringing in their own foot traffic. That's something to consider. There's different pros and cons of all of these options. If you rent a gallery space, there are a lot of gallery spaces. There are a lot of businesses, I should say, in New York City that rent themselves out for gallery pop-up shows. You see pop-up shows all the time. And they're pretty expensive. So maybe you want to, if you don't have the budget, maybe you want to put your work up in a restaurant or a furniture store, and do your research. As you're walking down the street, don't look forward, look to the side and look in the windows of the stores you're passing. Do they have art up on the walls? Does it look like it's art that can be that it switches out as a show? And any place there has been a pop-up show, there's a potential to doing another pop-up show. So just really start looking and finding the space that you would want your work to be seen in. So also don't forget theater lobbies. That's a good one. But you just want to make sure if you're in any kind of alternative space, you just want to check it out and make sure they have good lighting aiming towards the wall so your work won't be in the dark. Some restaurants have a really great clientele, but they're not bright enough to see your work. And remember, when you're getting to the point where you're approaching a business about doing an exhibit on their walls, remember that this is someone's business, so it's not all about you. You should have a mindset that you want this to benefit them as well as you. And so when you're doing your pitch, you're going to, say what you want to do, but, explain different ways that this might benefit them as well. And every place, if it's a restaurant or any kind of a business that has regular rotating shows, they all have their own rules already. And whether it's, how long a time they do shows for, and if they charge, or if they take a percentage, they'll have a regular routine, and then you just go by what their rules are. If it's a restaurant that doesn't have shows and maybe has never thought of it, then you can work on with them what you want the terms to be. But again, remember, you're a guest in someone else's house, and you want to benefit. You want everyone you encounter on a business level to feel like they got a great deal by interacting with you and having a transaction with you, whether it's a place you're showing your work or someone who's buying your work. And some of the wheres will be determined by the who's. There are pros and cons to whether you want to do this by yourself or do this with a group of people. There are pros and cons to both. The pros of having a group of people to do this with, forming a committee, is there someone to share the expenses with? Everyone will have their own social media following, and so you're adding to the social media power, to the reach. Just someone to help you with all the minutia that you're going to have to do. So things like that are good. The cons would be that it isn't now all your decision. Like if you have a vision that you definitely want the show to be like such and such, you want all the pictures to be in black frames, but someone who else is exhibiting with you, well, they want their stuff to be in white frames. So now the show's not going to look like what what your vision was, and you're going to have to, work on that, and also, maybe you want to have a band at the reception, and they don't want to have a band, or it's all the kind of things that you might want to do with your event. You're going to have to negotiate now with a group if you're doing it with a group. So you put your know yourself, like know if you're going to be okay with that or not, and also know who your collaborators are. You really want to choose carefully. You're curating your photographs to put in a show. Curate the people that you want to join you in this process. And no, even though it's not a permanent, starting a co-op doesn't mean it's permanent. It could be just for this one show. And that's all it is, in and out, just, so you say you have 5 people helping you. It's the 6 of you exhibiting together. You're not in business forever, but you're in business for the period of time that you're getting this event together. So make sure that there are, any committee, I'm sure, has anyone been on committees, whether it's a committee or a board, they're all the same. There are some doers, and then there are some commenters. So if you were a doer, you don't want to fill the committee with commenters, because you're going to do all the work and they're going to sit there and comment on what you're doing, but they're not going to get their hands dirty. You want to fill your committee. I see you shaking your head. You want to fill your committee with doers who are like you. And obviously you're doers because you're here. You want to do something. So you really want to go in eyes open and have honest conversations about what you see this as being an interview. It's not interview, but have a conversation, and not like a first date conversation where no one's really being honest, but be a farther in conversation where you talk about vision, and you want the group to be people who share the same goals that you have, want the same things from the show, whether it's you want to show. Some people may want to just show work, and some people may want to sell work, and if you're, the difference between, some people may be hobbyists and some people may be professionals. Nothing wrong with being a hobbyist. I don't know if any of you remember Len Spire, the really great street photographer who had been a lawyer, and he went from being a lawyer to being a full-time photographer. And in addition to being a great photographer, he used to help out photographers with their legal issues. But he always said, never put yourself down for being a hobby photographer. Some of the finest work is done by hobby photographers. So it's just a different animal. It's just a different economic distinction of, if a hobby photographer, they may be really dedicated, but it's still something they're doing for fun. Whereas a professional photographer, you're paying your bills on the back of your photography, and it's just a different thing. And so if you're going to mix, you have to make sure it works. And some people are happy to do a show and just get a lot of compliments. They will. I know I used to do art fairs. For like 20 years I did art fairs, and there would be some people that just did it for fun. They're retired, or they're housewives, and they're just happy to be out of the house. They would consider it a great show if they just got a lot of compliments. I find compliments irritating because I was there to sell. And, I can't go at the end of the month, I can't go to my landlord and say, I don't have the money for the rent, but I got like 380 compliments. 380 people told me my work is beautiful last weekend. Can you do anything for me? It doesn't work like that. So, you want to be pulling in the same direction. And And also, you want to make sure that you're all on the same level. You want to, because essentially, even though this is temporary, you're still going into business with these people, and how is that going to reflect on you? So you want to check out their social media to see the quality and to see their followers, and check to see that their followers are real. And also the tone, meaning you don't want someone who's crazy. You don't want someone who's like, their works look really great and it's great, but then you look on their social media and you're this nutty conspiracy theorist, or some kind of crazy stuff. You kind of don't want that to be on your show committee. And you have to have an honest, cards on the table discussion to make sure everyone's on the same page. And also, even if it's someone that you may not know them in a way that is, you know people in different silos. I know I used to work with someone who was really nice to me. I never was with that person out of the office. And then one day we went out for lunch, and this person was like yelling at random people on the street, and just be very aggressive. And I'm thinking, it's not like that in the office. Like, this is a different side to this person. And it was a little scary. So, but, because it was a different silo. You want to find out what someone's really about. And have you ever, I would not go into partnership with anyone that I've never said no to before. Have you ever been in a situation where you said, if you haven't been in a situation where you've had to say no to this person, you don't know what they're really like. You don't know what a person is really like until you say no to them and you see how they react. And so you want to make sure that, you can, this is a working committee, and everyone is going to get along, and you're going to have to decide how, if you have disagreements over aspects of the show, how are you going to handle those disagreements, and really put a group together and put it down in writing how you'll handle those agreements. And I would suggest have an odd number of people so you can vote, and it won't come out as a tie, and just be really careful, because even people who are really nice might not be good as partners for your event. So be really careful about that, because there's so many things you're going to have to decide. Like, once you get a space, how are you going to divide it up? Whose stuff is going to be where? Do you want conformity in framing, or is everyone going their own way? Like, maybe you want everything to be beautifully framed, and someone else just wants to tack stuff up, just prints up on the wall with pins. You have to be able to handle all those disagreements and negotiate and create a working relationship. So there's like a never-ending supply of questions to be answered that you're going to have to work on. And here's a pop-up example. And this, oh my God, the pictures aren't here. Where are the pictures? Are they coming? Wait. I had 2 pictures. Okay, 2 photographs. Hang on, let me go back and go forward again. Okay, well, here's one picture. Maybe the files were too big. But there's a storefront on Union Square North, 2 doors down from the Barnes & Noble. And anyone who knows me will laugh when I said that, because I'm always at the Barnes & Noble because I love books. But I saw this pop up in the empty storefront. I had pictures of the storefront there, so you could see what the outside looked like. You can stop by and see it. And I had 2 pictures of the inside. Here's one picture left of the inside. I don't know why the picture has suddenly left, but I don't know if I should take it out of preview mode and maybe take it out. Whoops. Okay. I know. Okay. Hang on. Okay, there's my. Pardon? Okay. Okay, I have no idea why this happened. I should not have. Okay. Okay. Okay, and now this happened. Okay. Okay, I'll make this bigger. Okay, here we go. Okay, okay. I just have to show this in a separate way. Okay, so here's the pop-up example. This is a storefront along Union Square North, which I walked along and saw this a couple of weeks ago. This, I believe, is up until September. You can see that this still has a sign up there that says retail space available. This is a space that's available for rent. There are so many empty storefronts in this city. I mean, you can approach any of them. And so this is what it looks like on the outside. And this is what it looks like on the inside. This photographer, Roberto Dutesco, has these beautiful photographs of horses. And this is, you don't have to go this big when you're going after a storefront. This is like a really big investment to rent a space this big. But he also designed, I had asked him, the way these images are hung, the really huge pictures, he also designed the hanging system that they're on, and which is a really amazing hanging system. And the photographer was there, and he had a couple of helpers there, just like it would be, you were going into a gallery and there are gallerists there. And so this is one example of you can do, but you don't have to do it on such a big scale. Is this okay that I'm showing the pictures like this? Okay, okay, okay. Okay, there's no getting around the fact that it's tougher to do this in New York City than other places, just because of what space costs in the city. But it can be done. And anywhere there's been, as I said, anywhere there's been a pop-up before, there can be a pop-up again. So that's a really great way of finding, you know, places that you can do this. Right here, there's an example of a pop-up in a coffee shop. You can see this artist has a show, or is advertising their pop-up in a coffee shop. So this looks like an ideal place to show your work. As you can see, they must do this regularly because there's lights on the walls. So your work is getting seen. Or there are, you know, or you can go for a place that that is a more conventional gallery. But I would also say, just as you're going about your business, look at walls. I mean, I'm always looking at walls because I spent over 20 years selling my work at art fairs. And one of the consequences of that is you're always looking at walls. And, you know, looking at, you know, how work is hung, the kind of work people have. You know, I always, people would always say, oh, your work is so beautiful, but I have no room for anything. But then whenever I'm even just watching TV, and regular persons being like interviewed, I'm always not just listening to them, but I'm looking at the walls behind them in their homes, like looking at what they have on the walls. So many people have like nothing on the walls, or they have one picture floating high above the couch. And I always wonder if that's one of the people who think that they have no space because they have one picture above the couch. And so what I started doing when I was doing art fairs is have a lookbook. And I should have brought my lookbook with me, but it's a book people can look through where I show how to live with art. And what I do is not show people living with art spaced out, is I show pictures of decor from decor magazines of work that's hung salon style, which is meaning lots of work arranged in different ways, to give people the idea that, you know, one picture above the couch doesn't cut it. You can do all kinds of stuff. So just as you're walking around, just keep looking for walls in places and write them down. Take a picture with your phone. I think in the future maybe you'll contact that place and want to have a show there. And now, not only it won't scroll. Wait. Okay, here we go. Now, aside from the space, you have to start thinking about your ground game. You want to have, like I said, you want to have a marketing plan together before you ever rent a space. And how do you do? First, people don't know marketing really is. Marketing is just all about stories and personal relationships, stories and relationships. And that's what marketing is about. That's what media is about. Really, social media is sort of about it, but a lot of the social part of social media gets lost. it's not enough to just have great work. You have to bring qualified buyers to the door, and you use marketing to do that. Someone said to me recently, really good photography markets itself. It's like, no, that's spoken like someone who's never actually made a living as a photographer. That is not, there is nothing that markets itself. There would be no advertising industry if everything everything that was great marketed itself. So and just like I said, you're building your list, you're building your social media following. I already mentioned, don't buy lists. Some people buy lists, that's old information. That's stuff that worked back, like 40 years ago, but it really doesn't apply now, especially since people move around so much. Any list you buy are probably not accurate, but you don't know that it's people on the list that are interested in the kind of stuff that you do. There's no substitute for doing the groundwork. And just, I would say, remember Miss Mazeppa, who, if you don't know, anyone know who Miss Mazeppa is? No? Am I the only person? Miss Mazeppa from Gypsy, the stripper. You got to have a gimmick if you want to get ahead. But as the answers to most questions can be found in Broadway musicals. That's my theory. But you have to have a story to go with your work. Make sure before you start approaching spaces, you want to make sure you have your elevator pitch. Someone asks who you are or what you do. You have a 20-second pitch that explains who you are and what you do. And make sure you write it in advance and memorize it and say it out loud, timing yourself to make sure it's 20 seconds and not 5 minutes, because people are going to start snoring after about 30 seconds. And you make it short and sweet and impactful. And make sure you have that. So now social media, that's a whole big can of worms that you can spend lots of time learning about and relearning about, because things keep changing. But there are some basic things that are true, and I already mentioned that it's about story and relationships. But it's also what you invest in as far as time, you're going to get back. It's not like magic beans. You have to be able to do something with the platforms, and make your social media channels not all about you. It's kind of boring to have a social media channel that you follow, and it's just constantly about the person who's always promoting themselves. Promote some other people. Put some interesting stuff about someone else's show that you've seen, or someone else's work, or a link to an article or something that your followers might find beneficial. So you don't look like you're so self-centered, because that, people are going to be more interested that way. But also, at some point, you can, if you don't have to be on every platform, choose 2 or 3 and really hit those platforms. And you can make posts that you translate by changing the size, whatever, and put them on all the platforms. So you can do, like, you get up every day and I'm going to put something on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, wherever you're going to put it, and you put the same post on all 3. And so it takes you a lot less time, and you keep everything going and create a rhythm. So your followers know, like, whether you're going to post once a week or twice a week, just have a rhythm that you stick with it. But no, for building engagement, carousel posts get more engagement than like a post with one picture is a regular post. A carousel post is where you can post multiple pictures and people have to swipe to see everything. Those posts get more engagement, and so it's a good idea to do carousel posts where you can. And not every image in the carousel has to be an image. You can have, an image, and you can have a couple of cards with different copy, things you want to say in the carousel. So you could have a picture, then you can have yada yada, a quote from you or a quote from someone. Then you can have another picture, and then you have another text slide. But posting those kind of posts will help you grow your following. Consistency is the key. And also, as mentioned, you don't want it to be a one-way street. Talk about some other people. And also, spend some time looking through who you're following and look at what they're posting and like their posts and post helpful things. Don't do it just to be transactional. I mean, really look at the work and say, you think things that you think, oh, that looks really great. Have you tried doing this? Or have you tried taking this here? Or different, or just, I love, what you've done here, whatever. Because people are looking for that as well. And like I said, all media is about story. So what's yours? Think about what your story is, because you're going to have to start presenting it to publicize your show. Now, traditional earned media is media you get for free. It's publicity. So you sent out a press release, a newspaper writes about you for free. You didn't have to pay. There's a general rule that publicity pulls more than advertising. So you want to try to get people to write about you, unless you're, Mr. Moneybags and you have a lot of money for paid advertising. So you have to come up with a compelling story about your work. Make it genuine, make it real. Don't make stuff up. But there has to be a story about either what you're photographing or there's something. Everyone has a story. It's like, have you ever watched that show with Henry Louis Gates, Finding Your Roots? It's like every single person that he has on there has some crazy, interesting story in their background. It's like everybody has a story. So you just have to, you're probably maybe not thinking about your own because you're living it and you're thinking, it's just commonplace to you. But you've got a story and putting that in the media is going to help you publicize your work. So old media still matters, even though you're using social media. If you were lucky enough to get something in the New York Times, that would be better than anything else in the world. That would be like, I don't know, Santa Claus coming to your opening and bringing you a pony. That would be, because, because people follow. There are gatekeepers to traditional media, and that keeps, it keeps some people out that would be great to get in there, but it also keeps a lot of the riffraff out. People look at it because they know they're not going to see crazy spam posts and whatever, and they know that there's people, writing about things in intelligent ways. So as you're building, your social media and building your mailing list for invitations, you're also building your list of people that you're going to want to contact to help publicize your show. And you want to make sure you research every outlet to make sure you're picking outlets that would talk about you, put things in that something in your story is something that they would write about. You don't want to send, if you have photographs of ballerinas, you may not want to send them to, Popular Mechanics. They might not be interested unless you may be lucky and the editor might have a daughter who's into ballet and in some way may write something. But, so take an interest in the publications that you're going to be contacting when the time comes. And even if your work is not right for them, you can still submit to them, but acknowledge right off the top, I know this is not the kind of thing that you would normally have in your publication, but I thought I'd take a chance. That way they know that you know about them, that you're not trying to, that you're not dumb and you're not unprofessional, that you know enough about them to know this isn't normally their cup of tea, but you thought you'd send this to them anyway to see if there's any way that they might be interested in some aspect of this. So as long as you acknowledge that, they'll listen to you. If you don't acknowledge that and they just see something, they're just out. So if you acknowledge it, they may take you seriously. Now the expenses to do this, insurance. Every place you're going to get a space would have their own rules about the kind of insurance writers you're going to need to have, and they will most likely have a company they'll want you to use, and you just get a rider on their insurance and pay for that. That's the easiest way to do that. And they're not going to be responsible for anything if any of your work gets broken or anything like that, or someone slips and falls at your show. They just want to be covered for that kind of stuff. Know that if you want to have an opening reception and you want to serve alcohol, it costs extra for the insurance. So just know that going in. On the printed matter is still matters. Whether you want to do business cards, postcards, whether you want to do a tabloid, whether you wanted to do any kind of related ephemera, paid advertising, if you want to do paid advertising, refreshments for your opening reception, and all that on top of printing and matting and framing your work. And I really think it's important, if you're going to be doing this, to start to learn how to mat and frame your work yourself. You're going to save so much money, and mat and frame your work at a professional level. What I did when I was getting started is I went to one of those frame yourself places, and where you can go and cut your own. They show you how to cut mats, and they show you how to build a frame and do it. I learned how to do it, and then I got my own mat cutter, and and started doing my own framing myself. Whether you get assemble yourself frames, there are some nice metal frames that you just have to put together, Nielsen frames, places you can get them. The kind of metal frames that you get like in ready-made frames you get in like art stores anymore. They don't sell any good ones anymore in art stores. I used to always be able to tell people, just mat your work to ready-made sizes, standard sizes, 16 by 20, 18 by 24, 20 by 24, and you can get great professional level frames at a good art store. Most art stores post-COVID don't have them anymore. The kind of frames they have are really crap, and they fall apart, and they're not a professional level framing. But there are places where you can get professional level frames, wholesalers, and I have a resource for you. And just like if you're into cooking, you create a relationship with your butcher. If you're into art, you create a relationship with the framer, with the people who sell the frames. Now, lead time. How much lead time you have, you may not be able to choose. If you choose a space and you really want it, and they tell you this is how much time we have until we have an opening, and that's the only opening we have for 3 years, whatever it is, that's what you have. And you have to think, can I do it in that time? Well, if you've done your homework, you're ready to go. And so, you can jump into it. If an opportunity, shows itself to you, you can jump in. Like I said, you may lose your hair from stress if you have opportunity to use this really terrific space, but it's next month. As I always say, one nervous breakdown at a time. That's how you get through anything. And no matter how much lead time you have, you may have a year. It's going to fly by. So don't procrastinate. Get all your ducks in a row. You may think, oh, I have bags and bags of time. This, da-da-da-da. And then suddenly it's here, and it's opening next week, and it's crunch time. So I would say just don't procrastinate. Great quote from Herb Brooks. Risk something or forever sit with your dreams. If this is your dream to do a show of your work, whether it's to do a show because you want to have a show, a gallery show of your work, or whether you want to do this because you want to promote your work, a new tool to have in your toolbox of self-promotion to get gigs. This can be a great thing to do. But it is a risk, but it can, bring you, great rewards. Now, I have some resources here. I was talking about matting and framing. Just so you know, a lot of people probably don't know that Adorama sells mat cutters and archival mat board. Did you know Adorama sells?
I didn't even know this was a store till you just said that. I didn't even know.
So they have, I say that I bought a Logan mat cutter like 30 years ago. It paid for itself in the first weekend I had it. And you can cut your own mats for a fraction of what it costs you to go out and get someone to cut them for you, get a frame shop to cut mats for you. I would look at what's available. You definitely want the mats to be acid free. and you want to pick a color. And when I say color, I don't mean red, blue, green. I mean a shade of white. I mean, you could mat everything in purple if you want. I'm all for purple, but just know you're going to get some pushback. But if you want something, if you're trying to sell your work, you want something to be able to picture it on their walls. And you also want to be able to, someone to be able to buy a picture from you today and buy another picture from you in 6 months, and they don't fight with each other on the wall. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that you find a mat board that works with your work, and you stick with that mat board. Because even if it's a slightly different shade of white, they may have lighting in their house that makes it look like it clashes. So you always want to stick with the same mat board. So these and when you get mat cutters, don't get the kind of mat cutter that's just the little thing, that's just the little slidey thing that you slide along a ruler. Those are like next to impossible to do. Really invest in a cutter they're like $200, $300, and they will last you forever. And I mean, I don't even know how many thousands of mats I've cut with my mat cutter, and it still works. So now also for framing, this is a place I recommend, and the picture didn't show up again. I swear their pictures were all here when I left the house. But Florida Frames is a framing shop that I have been using for decades, and they're obviously in Florida. That's why they're called Florida Frames. You can get stuff at wholesale prices. They go to their website. They have all kinds of frames. If you spend more than like $100, shipping is free. I always get bulk frames. You can get just one. A couple weeks ago, I had to get a frame because I'm actually in a show right now at Soho Photo Gallery with 7 other photographers, and it's up till August 17th, so please come by and see it. Soho Photo Gallery is a new location in Chelsea, 539 West 23rd Street. And actually come by on Thursday night if you're between 6 and 8, because all the artists will be there. You can chat with the artists. But in any event, I was going to be hanging the show, and I thought I had all the frames I needed, and I was short 1 frame. And it was a Friday, and I had to hang the show on a Tuesday. And I called them up and said, I have a bit of a problem here. Is there any way you can build a frame for me? And these are not ready-made frames. They have to build them. You can build a frame for me. I gave them the molding and have it to me by Monday. And they said, sure. And 2 hours later, it was already shipped out. They're really great. I can't say enough about the customer service there. And so really great, good prices, get them wholesale. And they're used to working with artists on the art fair circuit. I love books, so of course, I'm not going to let you go without showing you some books I recommend. Thomas Werner, The Business of Fine Art. Have you ever had Thomas Werner in here speaking? Oh, you have to have him come in and speak. This is like a textbook for anyone who wants to get into exhibiting their work, or doing not just exhibiting their work, because we're just talking about exhibiting here, but really the business of fine art photography. Really gets into the weeds, the finances, everything. It's a textbook. I highly recommend it. Also, a new book that's out. Karen Williams is a professional in the photo industry. She's a photo editor, art buyer. Excuse me, for a second. She has a new book out called The Photo Hustle. We had her speak recently at the gallery, and she was terrific. It's an insider's guide to how to book jobs and how to charge, how to do everything about the business of photography. It's fantastic. Another book that's like a textbook to read. When I say textbook, I don't mean boring. It's just meaning just has all the information in there for you. I highly recommend it. Also, Seth Godin. I don't know if anyone reads Seth Godin. He's like the marketing guru. And he has a number of books. This one's called The Practice, Shipping Creative Work. And when he says shipping, it's not like he's packing things up and sending them UPS. He's talking about creating work, and very inspirational book. I would recommend these 3 books highly, and all of them are available on the photographer's websites, or Seth Godin's available at Barnes & Noble. They're available everywhere, and I would highly recommend these books. And so I've given you a lot of information, and it may sound daunting, But yes, you can do this. I want you repeat after me. Yes, I can do this. Okay. You just have to organize yourself, take it step by step, and you can create an opportunity for yourself to get your work seen. And don't forget to send me an invitation when for your opening for your show. And another appropriate quote: "The scariest moment is always just before you start," from Stephen King, and he knows a little bit about scary. So so just go get them. And also, I forgot to mention my newsletter at the beginning when I said who I am. I produce a free weekly e-newsletter called Develop Photography Newsletter. Thank you for the thumbs up there. And it's about all things photography, from the inspirational to the technical, and photography world. That's QR code. If you scan that, that's to subscribe. I never share addresses or names with anybody, just so you know. So I have a QR code now. It's almost as if I'm living in the 21st century. And that's my email address if you'd like to find me for any reason. And also, if you're interested in, I also do a program every year that starts in September called Portfolio Development, which is a guided independent study program. And the participants go through about 5 months of classes and crits and feedback. And then at the end, submit a mini portfolio for the chance to be juried into a show in a gallery. So if you'd like to find out about that, you can email me to get the information. But thank you. Do you have any questions? Yes? Sure.
So if you show with another photographer, for example, a friend who's a nature photographer, I'm a street photographer, is it not wise to do, let's say, like a dual show in the same space, where one person on one side, one the other?
Yeah. Okay. The person's asking if I have a friend who does landscape and nature photography, and I do street photography. Is it not wise to do both together? It can work. Yes, it can definitely work. It's hard to say without seeing the work. What goes together. I personally think I'm not one of these people. There's a word that I absolutely hate that gets used in crits. It's the word cohesive. I think it's something that people say when they don't know what else to say because they've heard other people say it. Yes, it has to looks like it goes together. Your own work needs to look like it was all done by you, and the other person's work like it should all be done by them. But if the quality level is the same, I don't see a problem sharing a gallery with different kinds of work. That's not a problem at all. It's just you're going to want that the level of work is up to the same level, whether it's street photography or nature, whatever it is. So that's not a problem. Did you have a second question?
I did. So I've been like sort of a little bit scouting out with restaurant space that talking about for potential. But how do you approach a space like that? It's not a gallery,
Right.
And think about or talk about what goes on their wall physically when you don't want to put holes in the wall of their restaurant, like you don't want to damage their walls. I mean, how do you approach hanging stuff in a place that's not meant for hanging?
This person said that she's been scouting out spaces, wants to know how do you approach a space that's like a business, like a restaurant, and pitch to them because you don't want to put holes in their walls. Well, if they have a rotating shows, then they already have a lot of places that have rotating shows already have hooks that you just replace your stuff with the stuff that's already there. I showed you that coffee shop. And generally, I mean, if the restaurant has wallpaper, they're probably not going to want to put stuff up that if they're not used to it. But if they're painted walls, you're going to with any place you exhibit, you're going to be responsible for patching and painting when you're done. So know that going in, and just don't. If you see a place that has wallpaper and they have work that it looks like it could be rotated, it just might be. And actually, if you see a restaurant and you see lights pointed at the walls at the pictures, it probably is a rotating show, because most restaurants wouldn't have lights pointed at the walls unless they're drawing attention to the work that's there. And one thing I didn't mention is that if you say go up and if you're doing something in a gallery space, you're going to have to be there manning the gallery the whole time the show is running. If you're in a restaurant space or a bank lobby or an office lobby or a furniture store, you're not going to be there at all the hours that the business is open. So you're going to have signage there that tells people coming in that that the pictures on the wall are from a show. And so like maybe you want to work with the restaurant how do you approach them? You want to pitch them, you want to have your elevator pitch ready. You want to have something written too that you can leave behind, because you don't know if you're going to go in if the decision maker is there. And you're going to have a little a packet you put together with a letter saying quickly who you are and what you want to do, and you love the restaurant, whatever. Don't say it if you don't mean it. You would wonder if they've ever thought of having an exhibiting work on the walls, because you're an artist and you're looking for space. And you leave with your contact information. You leave that if the decision maker isn't there, you leave that behind, and then you follow up at some point later. But you have your elevator pitch ready, just in case. I will never forget, this is going off on a tangent. Years ago, I used to run a photography workshop program, and I called Time Life to speak to Alfred Eisenstadt, who I'm sure you all know, assuming I was not going to get him, assuming I was going to get his secretary. So I had practiced what I was going to say to, I was going to say, can I speak to Alfred Eisenstadt? And they were going to say, well, you can't speak to him, here's his secretary. And so I had a pitch that I had memorized for the secretary. And I called and I said, I'd like to speak to Mr. Eisenstadt, Alfred Eisenstadt, please. And he said, it's me. And it was him. And I got so flustered. I was trying to make do, saying the thing that I had memorized and like change it from, change, tenses and all this stuff. And it was like, I made a complete idiot out of myself. Yeah, practice different scenarios and leave the stuff behind, and then just follow up, and don't be a pest. It's like anything else in business that you're following up. You don't be a pest, but you also want to say like what it might do for them, that you have X number of social media following and you're going to be publicizing it, and these people might come into the restaurant, and and maybe they want to offer a discount to your social media following to get. Every restaurant is looking to fill everyone wants to put butts in the seats. Maybe you present it as this is going to benefit you, but you also present it that this could conceivably benefit them. So that would be how you do it. The same would go for a furniture store. People need artwork to hang up with the couches that they buy, and some furniture stores, it doesn't look like they put a lot of thought into what's on the walls. Maybe they do, but maybe they don't. And so, I mean, if it's a chain store, they're going to tell you have to go to the main office. But if it's an independent store, go in and ask, say you're a photographer. Again, you have your information to leave behind, and you're interested in exhibiting there. And do they ever do anything like that? And of course, a place like that, a furniture store, they will most likely want a percentage. You sell anything, they're going to want a percentage. So, and just know what you're willing to give and price accordingly. Any other questions? Yes?
When you're framing?
Yes. The question is, do you recommend protective glass? Yes, I would never exhibit anything anywhere without glass. Some people use plexi. I prefer glass, but some actually locations may prefer you use plexi because they worry about, if it's a place where there's a lot of activity, they worry that someone's going to bump into it and the glass is going to break and someone's going to get hurt. So they may prefer plexi. But I always exhibit with glass because people want to touch stuff, and you don't want someone going and touching your work. So. I never get UV glass. I just get regular glass on mine. And I always, because UV glass is very expensive, and I tell people what they're buying. And if someone wants to replace the glass with UV glass, they can do that. Yeah. But I always tell people, even with UV glass, I would not hang any artwork in direct sunlight anyway, even if it had UV glass. Any, yes?
Congratulations, great seminar.
Thank you.
And I I really love your photography newsletter.
Thank you.
It's unbelievable. Everybody should read it. It's just right. Anyway, a couple questions. I don't know if this can go into this a little bit, but you know, you talked about this exhibition, preparing and everything, but when the pictures or your artwork is on the wall, what's your take, what's your professional take on whether you want to do a catalog, whether you want to do an open edition, whether you want to do a limited edition,
Yeah.
how much, how many pictures in a limited edition?
Right. The question is first of all, I got a lot of compliments. I got a nice compliment about my newsletter. Thank you. But also he asked, like, what is my take on do I want to do a catalog, and also do you want to do numbered limited editions, and how many images in edition? There are different opinions on this. I'm not if you're in the rarefied high-end Chelsea Gallery world, they generally want you to have not more than 7 or 8 photographs in an edition. And then on top of that, you would have, you know, maybe 10 or 12, but they prefer like 7 or 8. And you have some artist proofs, a few artist proofs as well. I have images that my images that I have numbered editions. I do hand-colored black and white photography in editions of 100. I started doing it a long time ago, and I saw so many things in editions of 100. I found out later that most of the things that I was seeing that were numbered were in what would be considered the photojournalism realm, and that was at the time was done for that. I have a couple images that I wish I had never numbered because I could keep selling them forever. I have one of my pieces, I've sold 83 of that 100. At between the prices go up, I'm now selling that for like $950. It started when I started out selling the edition. It was $350. It went up to $400. Then went up to $500. Kept going up. Now they're $950. But I kind of wish I didn't number them because I would like to keep selling them, and it's you know, one of my favorite pictures. So, but it's up to you what you do. I mean, in gallery terms, it creates a sense of, you know, makes something limited and makes it more valuable. And it's up to you whether you do it or not. But just be consistent. So once you start it, it's, you know, and it's also more paperwork. You know, you have to keep track and all that. So you just have to, there are no rules unless you're going into a gallery and that's all they take. Then there are those rules. So you want to be represented by a gallery, and this gallery only wants numbered limited editions of 8. Then that's all you can do. And if you want to be represented by that gallery. So, but if you're doing this on your own and there's no gatekeepers here, and it's the show of your design, and I mean, unless you're doing it because you want galleries to see you. I mean, it's conceivable you want to be represented by a gallery, so you find a place to rent. And then you invite the people you invite to come to your opening and your show are gallerists and other, because you want gallerists to come see you, and hopefully you get represented. I mean, that's a legitimate thing you can do with an exhibition. So I guess figure that out before you create, you know, that work, and then choose accordingly. So, yes?
I have a quick question. I've been going to many galleries recently where they have their work shown digitally. What is your feeling about that?
The question is, so he's been to galleries where the work is shown digitally. Do you mean like on a monitor?
Yes.
I think it's fine, but I think if people want to buy the work, they want to see the picture. They want to buy. But that's me. Maybe, you know, I'm an OG. Seth told you I'm an OG. So it's like I want to see the actual picture because, you know, it may not look the same when you get the actual photograph, but you see it on the screen. There's light coming behind, and so the picture they buy might not look the same. Same as like I will buy books online, but I won't buy clothes online because I want to see the fabric. I want to touch the fabric. I want to see the color. It's the same if it's something that's going to be on my wall that I'm going to live with. I want to see it in person before I buy it. But that's just me. I don't know what percentage of the market are people like me, or what percentage of the market don't care. But you know, it's legitimate to have a show that's digital with those digital monitors. They keep changing pictures. A lot of galleries do that, but it depends on what for these purposes, for this class about creating an exhibition, if you want to sell, if your end point is you want to sell your fine art pieces off the wall, you need to have those fine art pieces off on the wall. If your purpose is you want to bring in art buyers and photo editors and those kind of people to see your work, like you want this to be a living portfolio, you conceivably could have a bunch of monitors that keep flashing more pictures, because maybe you have 200 pictures you want to show and you have like 5 monitors and they all keep cycling through. So, the sky's the limit. It depends on what you want to get out of it, and then you create the show that goes with that.
I'll just caveat, most of the time when I've seen it, I think it's people who just want to showcase what they do rather than sell anything.
Right.
So then it makes more sense.
Yes, and he's also saying that he thinks that most times people do that, they just want to show work and not sell. You had,
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for the resources you provide today and the newsletter. Also to ask you about any tips you can offer in terms of assessing the value of your work before you decide to sell something.
okay, this questioner asked assessing the value of your work, meaning what to charge, what to price your work at. That is the hardest question to answer. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. I've been doing this for a long time and I still struggle. There's times when I really need to, you have to try to get past, I really need to sell something. Am I going to price this to sell because I need to pay my bills this month, and afraid to raise my prices. But that's an issue that a lot of photographers have. I think female photographers have that issue more than male photographers, of not charging what you're worth. But just know you have to, if you're just starting out, I don't know that matters if you're just starting out, but you find a number that you're comfortable with that takes into account what it costs you, what your profits is, everything that goes into it. And then you start raising your prices slowly from there. It's hard to start really high and then lower your prices, because then conceivably you say you charged someone you had a show and everything was $1,500 and you were lucky enough to sell one, but you only sold one. And so the next time you have a show, you're selling them for $1,200 because you really want to sell. And then someone who bought the $1,500 one comes and they see that you're now selling over $1,200, and they're going to feel bad. Well, why did I spend $300 more for the same thing? People want to know that when it's artwork, for some reason, they think of it as a collectible, a commodity. I don't, but a lot of collectors do, and they love to see when they bought it at this price and now it's at this price. So I would say don't give things away bargain basement prices. Don't feel guilty about charging what you feel you're worth, and also to take into account, are you doing limited editions? If you're doing open editions, of course you can sell for less. And when you are doing limited editions, every one you sell, the price goes, or every one or every few, that price, there's a price jump. Yeah. It's like I can't tell you start at 500 or start at, it's just it depends. But I will say, if you're doing it with a group of people, make sure you're all within the kind of in the same range. You don't have to be exactly the same, but you don't want to be selling your work for like $900 a piece, and then someone is selling the stuff for $10. Because it makes it hard for you. I used to sell my work out on the street in front of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. There used to be a really great permit program for artists. And they only allowed 24 people a month got the permits. And it was great. I could sell an original piece almost every day that I was out there. And then somebody sued the city, claiming it infringed on their First Amendment right to force them to get a permit. And so the judge didn't realize this person was not actually an artist, he sued the city for a living. And so he sided with that person. They got rid of the permits. And suddenly it was flooded with what we call the picture mafia. People selling, if you're visually literate, you see stuff that obviously copyright infringed that's being sold in frames for $10. And it was flooded with that. And so suddenly the people who were selling original work couldn't sell anything, because we're surrounded by people selling crap for $10. And most people they see something they like it, they don't realize, well, this person stole this. This is, no, that's an Avedon. This is not Richard Avedon standing out in front of the museum selling something on the sidewalk. Yeah, so I lost my train of thought, but you just have to keep, make sure you're within the same range. So it looks like you go together, like that you would appeal to the same kind of customers. Anybody else? Any other questions? Any questions online? No questions? Either they've all fallen asleep or I've covered the topic so well, they have no questions. So, okay, well, thank you.